The break room at St. Jude was always too cold. Fluorescent light pooled across the linoleum like it was trying too hard. My coffee had gone lukewarm, but I drank it anyway. I was on the last set of night shift discharges. 4 patient charts signed, vitals double-checked, med orders reviewed. Quiet meant nothing was actively breaking. The alert came through at 6:12 a.m. Credit alert, significant change detected. I glanced at it. Probably just the normal fluctuation. I'd paid off my student loan early. My last car was cash. I hadn't used credit since March. Still, I tapped it. Score drop, 280 points. Status, 6 new open accounts. Lenders I didn't recognize. I stared at the screen a moment longer than necessary. There was a buzzing in the back of my head. Not panic, calculation. I opened my credit file. 6 new accounts, opened in the last 45 days, all with my name, my social security number, my old address, my parents' house in Montgomery, Alabama. I called the first bank listed. It was 7:03 a.m. in Georgia. I sat down on a metal chair, tucked one foot behind the other, and waited through the menu options. A woman picked up. Calm voice, scripted tone. "Can you verify your information, ma'am?" I did. Every digit, every line. Then she read it back to me. Name, SSN. Date of birth. Billing address, 2414 East Hemlock Avenue, Montgomery, my parents' house. She thanked me for confirming and asked how she could help. "My account," I said. "I never opened it." Another pause. Professional now, just a beat longer than before. "Ma'am, the application came through with matching credentials and passed all verification checks." "When was it opened?" "November 12th. That was the week I had floated 3 night shifts in a row. I remembered it because one of the new residents had passed out from dehydration in the stairwell, and I'd been the one to find him. I had called it in, handed him off, and kept working. "Was it opened online?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Submitted digitally. Approved same day. Charges started posting 3 days later." I thanked her and ended the call. I checked the others. All the same pattern. Different cards, different balances. All opened using my information, all tied to the Montgomery address. I didn't feel anything yet, just pressure, low and quiet. I called my mother. I didn't want to, but I did. She answered on the second ring. "Sweetie, you okay? You sound tired." Someone opened 6 credit accounts in my name. Silence, just long enough to notice. "They used your address," I said. She exhaled, soft, familiar. "Your sister's been going through a rough patch. Her business, the rent." "You knew?" "She didn't want to tell you. It wasn't supposed to be permanent." My fingers tightened around the edge of the table. "She said she'd pay it back," my mother added, "before the wedding. She maxed out every card. She's under so much stress. She stole my name, my credit, my future. And you let her." Another pause. This one deeper. "She's getting married, Skylar. She didn't want more shame." I ended the call. I didn't cry. I didn't text Jessica. I didn't say anything at all. I walked to the nurse's locker room, changed out of my scrubs, and drove home with the windows cracked even though the air was cold. The sun was coming up, slow and without warmth. The sky over Savannah always looked quiet in the mornings, like it had seen too much already. I sat in my apartment parking lot and stared at the windshield. I thought about the time I lent Jessica $1,200 for her LLC filing and website. She promised to pay me back with her first client. That was 3 years ago. When she called to say she'd shut it down, I didn't say a word, just told her to take care of herself. She called again 6 months later, said the car loan was drowning her. I covered the missed payment. My tax refund was supposed to go toward my student loan that year. I split it instead. It was always just this once. I filed the fraud report online. I uploaded photos of my ID, my signature, my lease agreement in Savannah. I filed the police report too, typed every line carefully, clear, factual, unadorned, name of suspect, Jessica Brooks. Relationship, sister. Nature of fraud, identity theft, financial. Total estimated damage, $47,000. I paused before I hit submit, not because I doubted it, but because I understood exactly what it meant. I texted my father, "We need to talk." No reply. 2 hours later, I got a call. He didn't say hello. "Your mother said you're upset. She committed fraud in my name. She's your sister, and you're her father. She didn't mean to hurt you." I didn't answer. "She just needed help. She stole my identity. You protected her. You're overreacting." There it was. I didn't respond. I waited. He sighed. "You always make things dramatic." "Goodbye, Dad." "Skylar, don't do this." I ended the call. I turned my phone off and didn't turn it back on for 2 days. When I finally did, there were voicemails. One from my mother, crying. One from my father, his voice low and sharp. This should have stayed private. I sat on the floor of my living room, the police report confirmation still open on my laptop, and I realized something small but final. They hadn't called to ask if I was okay. They'd called to make sure I stayed quiet. Jessica's wedding was in 2 weeks. I'd already booked the flight, bought a dress, requested the days off. I went to HR and canceled the leave. I sent a single text to my parents. "I won't be attending. Please don't contact me again." The next morning, my mother posted a photo on Facebook. The family stood in rows, dressed in shades of blue and gray. Jessica beaming, Dad in his old suit, my mother holding a bouquet like it was something fragile. Everyone smiling, except me. I wasn't in it. I didn't comment. I didn't explain. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of black coffee and opened a spreadsheet. I listed every fraudulent account, every open balance, every monthly payment. I called the creditors one by one. I told the story again and again. No, I didn't open that account. Yes, I filed a police report. Yes, I understand what this means. Most reps were kind. Some weren't. I didn't flinch either way. I took notes. I made a binder. I went to work that night like nothing had happened. Charted meds, walked post-op patients, signed off shift with initials neat and precise. Then came home and sat in the dark while the fridge hummed and the city moved outside my window. I didn't speak to Jessica again. She didn't apologize, and I didn't ask her to. The morning of the wedding, I woke early. I hadn't set an alarm. Habit wakes you before guilt can. I poured hot water over coffee grounds, watched it bloom and settle. On the counter, my dress hung still in its dry cleaning plastic, untouched. I hadn't canceled the delivery. It had arrived 3 days earlier, same day I filed the fraud affidavit. I didn't pack it. I sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad, drew a line down the middle. Left side, creditors, balances, dates opened. Right side, actions taken, responses, deadlines. I numbered each row, wrote carefully, 1 line per entry. At 9:14 a.m., my phone rang, my father's name on the screen. I let it ring. I didn't listen to the voicemail. My mother texted at 9:42. "She's your sister. You'll regret this." At 10:03, a photo popped up in the family group chat. Jessica in her dress, lace sleeves, beaded waistline. My mother's hand on her arm, my father standing close, straight-backed, smiling like nothing had been broken. My name wasn't tagged. I muted the thread. They posted more photos by noon. Jessica and Daniel walking through a field of white folding chairs, laughing. The reception table with candles in glass cylinders. My uncle toasting with a bourbon tumbler raised, face flushed. Caption, "What a perfect day." I kept scrolling until I found the family photo. Wide shot, golden light, rows of familiar faces. My absence didn't leave a space. They'd closed ranks, tightened the circle. At 3:27 p.m., my phone rang again. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. I had planned to do nothing that day, just be still. But stillness became pressure. So I opened my laptop and drafted the first formal dispute letter. Enclosed ID, report number, affidavit. I signed it with a pen, not digitally. Then scanned it back in. I labeled the file clearly. Brooks_dispute_1_Amex.pdf. At 5:09 p.m., my father left a voicemail. "You've embarrassed us. You had no right to make this public. This family doesn't deal with police. You should have come to us." I didn't reply. That night, I ordered Thai food, ate it on the couch while reruns played muted on the screen. When the food was gone, I opened a fresh notebook and started a timeline. Date Jessica opened each card. Date of first charge. Shipping address. Billing address. Who signed. Who paid. I didn't know what I would do with the notebook yet, only that I needed it. The next morning, I went to work. No one asked where I'd been. The board was full. Room 504 was coding again. One of the interns was crying in the hallway. I took her chart, signed off. That week, I submitted the restitution claim. The week after that, I received a letter. White envelope, standard font. Office of District Attorney, Montgomery County. Inside, court date. Statement of charges. Identity theft. Fraud. Wire fraud. Total. $46,893.27. I read it once, then again. I made a copy, placed it in a file labeled case. Then I called my parents. My mother answered. "Skylar," she said, "please don't do this." "I already did. She's your sister. She used my name. You let her." "You're being cruel." "No," I said, "I'm being correct. You're ruining her life. She chose this." My mother started crying. I didn't hang up. I listened to it, calmly. The way you listen to rain against a window you're not planning to open. "Don't come back here," she said finally. "If you go through with this, don't come back." "I heard you," I said, and I didn't. The next week, I met with the county detective. Plain clothes, clipboard, unhurried. "You understand what this means?" he asked. "Yes. It's rare to pursue charges in family. Most people let it go." "I'm not most people." He nodded. "She maxed the cards fast," he said, flipping pages. "Trips, luxury goods, boutique services." "I know. You don't want to look at this part?" "No," I said. "I've seen enough." He handed me a copy of the file anyway. At night, I flipped through the evidence. Screen grabs, purchase orders, email confirmations. One stood out, $846.52 from a store in Atlanta. Date, 5 days after she'd called me crying about rent. Message, "I promise I'll pay you back, just this once." She had bought shoes, designer ones, still in the bag. I saved the image, labeled it justthisonce.jpg. Jessica didn't call me. She didn't write. I saw her life unfold online. #engaged, #grateful, #self-care, #family first. The same hands that signed my name on credit slips were now wrapped around champagne glasses and bridal bouquets. Her profile picture changed weekly. Mine stayed blank. My parents didn't reach out again. Not for my birthday. Not for Christmas. Not when I had a flu so bad I thought about calling an ambulance. That was the first time I realized I'd never been the one they worried about. Not really. I was the reliable one, the one they could expect to survive. Jessica was the investment, the dream, the golden child with second chances polished into opportunity. When I cut ties, I didn't scream. I didn't post. I didn't send long explanations. I changed my number, updated security questions, locked down every account, filed everything. I filed until I stopped flinching when the mail arrived. At the hospital, I stayed late, covered extra shifts, took the holiday nights. It was easier than silence. When people asked about my family, I said they lived out of state. When someone asked why I wasn't taking vacation, I said I liked the work. It wasn't a lie. I liked what work gave me: control, rules, respect. The kind you didn't have to beg for. The kind that didn't vanish when someone prettier needed it more. One night in January, my unit threw a birthday party for a nurse who was leaving. There were streamers and cake in the break room. I stood near the back, smiled when appropriate. Someone asked if my family was coming to visit soon. I said no. "Oh," they said. "They must miss you." I nodded. Maybe. I didn't know more than that. The hearing came faster than I expected. I took the day off, ironed a gray blouse, black pants. I carried a folder with every document I'd filed. I didn't need most of it. I carried it anyway. I sat on the left side of the room. Jessica came in with my parents. She wore cream, too pale for the season. My mother held her elbow. My father walked stiffly, like a man preparing to be misunderstood. They didn't look at me. Jessica's lawyer made a statement about stress, about impulse, about regret. My lawyer submitted the files. Then the judge asked the question. "Mr. Brooks," he said, looking directly at my father, "did you or your wife offer to assume or repay any portion of this debt which your other daughter incurred without consent?" My father's mouth opened, paused, closed, then opened again. "No," he said. And that was the moment. The air changed. Jessica blinked. My mother's hand twitched. The judge nodded once and made notes. 5 years probation, restitution, financial counseling. Jessica didn't look at me. She looked at the floor. I didn't smile. I didn't stand. I didn't thank the court. I picked up my folder, walked to the door, stepped out. Outside, the air was bright and too warm for February. I took a deep breath. The file felt heavier than it had on the way in, but so did I. The day after the hearing, I worked a double. 1 trauma admission, 2 stroke codes, a failed central line that turned into an emergency transfer. I didn't tell anyone where I'd been, didn't mention court, just clocked in and kept moving. People think relief comes like light, sudden, bright, warm. It doesn't. It comes in fragments. A shift with no paperwork errors, a morning where no new charges appear, a night where you fall asleep without rehearsing conversations that never happened. 3 days after the hearing, Jessica posted a photo. Her smile took up most of the frame. Shopping bags lined the passenger seat behind her. The caption read, "Treating myself, #self-care, #healing journey, #blessed." One of the bags had the same logo I'd seen on a charge from 2 months ago, $762 marked pending investigation. The card had been closed now, but the memory wasn't. I took a screenshot, labeled it, "Still treating, herself.jpg." I didn't send it to anyone. I just saved it. I had started saving everything. I didn't know why yet. Just that patterns mattered, that people forget and screenshots don't. 2 weeks later, a collections agency called. "You're listed as the primary on an auto loan." I never applied for a car loan. Application lists your SSN and your old address. I have a police report, a case number, charges filed. The man on the line paused. "Apologies, ma'am. We'll update the record." I added it to the file, tabbed it in red. My mother sent a birthday card in March, blank inside except for one line written in her neat, slanted handwriting. "We love you no matter what." No return address. I tore the card in half, then taped it back together and filed it. Not out of sentiment, but accuracy. Love in my family was often conditional, but never clearly labeled. At the hospital, I kept my head down, picked up more shifts. I liked the quiet inside a patient chart, the logic of labs and vitals, the way trauma could be managed by checklists and prep trays. On my lunch break, I made phone calls. Sat in my car with the AC running and recited case numbers. Sometimes I stayed late, waiting until the parking lot emptied so I wouldn't have to say goodnight to anyone. I wasn't isolating. I was adjusting. There's a difference. One evening in May, I came home to a manila envelope taped to my door. No return label. Inside were photocopies, court documents, credit summaries, statements I'd already seen, and one note, typed. "Hope this was worth it." No signature. I didn't tell anyone. I checked my locks twice. Updated my work schedule so I never came home at the same time. Changed the camera angle on my doorbell app. I logged it in the file. threat_envelope_May18.pdf, filed under harassment. Jessica's restitution was set at $243 a month. Her first payment arrived in July. Amount $412. Memo line court ordered. It cleared 3 days later. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel anger. I felt relief. Because the debt was no longer growing. It wasn't just mine anymore. That same month, one of the new interns asked if I wanted to go in on lunch orders. "We're all pitching in," she said, holding a takeout menu. "It's sushi." I started to say no, then stopped. "Sure," I said. "Thanks." I ate miso soup and cucumber rolls in the back stairwell. The quiet kind of small joy. You learn to recognize peace in pieces. In August, I received a certified letter. My parents' attorney. Formal request to drop all remaining charges against Jessica Brooks. The letter was 2 pages long, full of vague language, family healing, emotional toll, disproportionate consequences. I read it once, then set it aside. I didn't answer. Letting it go unanswered was its own kind of statement. 2 weeks later, my father left a voicemail. "This doesn't just affect you. You're tearing this family in half." I deleted it, then blocked the number. Back at work, one of the cardiologists asked if I wanted to apply for the senior charge nurse position. "You've got the hours, the qualifications. You're the only one I trust with that unit overnight." "I'll think about it," I said. "Think fast," she replied. "Applications close Friday." I applied the same night, not because I needed the title, because I wanted the control. The second restitution payment arrived in September, $243. No memo. I cashed it. One morning in October, I saw Jessica at a grocery store, not in Montgomery, in Birmingham. I hadn't expected that. I was in scrubs. She was in leggings and a fleece pullover, pushing a cart with oat milk, bath salts, and a bottle of $29 cold-pressed juice. She saw me first, paused in the aisle, smiled faintly. "I heard you got promoted." "I did." "Congratulations," she said. "Thanks." We stood in silence, a jar of almonds between us. She tilted her head. "You know, I never meant for it to go that far." I nodded. "Mom says you've changed." "I have." She shrugged. "People make mistakes, Skylar, and they pay for them." Her smile faltered. "You used to be more forgiving." "No," I said. "I used to be quieter." I walked away without looking back. That night, I unlocked my storage bin, took out my old military duffel bag, still dusty from years ago. I found my discharge paperwork, my commendation letters, my rank insignia. I placed them in a new folder, labeled Identity, Verified. In November, my supervisor called me into her office. "You're being recommended for the regional board." I blinked. "Why?" She smiled. "Because you do the job like it matters, and because I trust you not to need the credit." I nodded once. "You'll need to give a presentation," she added, "on personal ethics in leadership." I almost laughed. I spoke to a group of 20 people in a conference room downtown, projected my slides, clinical tone, clear data, no personal anecdotes. At the end, someone asked, "How do you define integrity?" I paused, then said, "Doing what's right, especially when it won't be understood." No one applauded. It wasn't that kind of talk, but several people nodded. That was enough. In December, Jessica's Instagram disappeared, deleted or deactivated. Her husband's page went private. I didn't care enough to check twice. My father sent a card at Christmas. No return address. Inside was a check for $1,000. Memo line, "For your trouble." I shredded it. Then opened a new savings account. No cosigners, no paper statements. Locked under 2-factor authentication. Balance $412. Label Restoration. One cold night, I drove to a small diner on the edge of town. One I hadn't been to in years. They still had the same pie menu. The waitress had gray at her temples now. "Skylar?" she asked, smiling. "Back in town?" "Just passing through," I said. I ate cherry pie and drank black coffee while the jukebox played an old song I didn't recognize. Outside, a delivery truck passed with its lights off. I watched it until it disappeared. Later that month, I ran into my father again, a hardware store. He was buying paint. I was picking up a new lockbox. "You got what you wanted," he said. "No," I said. "I got what was fair." He looked away, didn't speak again. We stood in the same aisle for nearly 3 minutes. He left first. I started singing again while cooking. Small songs, half remembered. I bought new sheets. I started therapy. I stopped explaining myself when people asked why I didn't see family much anymore. I got a dog, a rescue, quiet, anxious, trusting, but only after you earned it. I named her Marnie. That spring, I stood on my balcony with a cup of tea, watching the sky shift from gray to gold. I thought about everything I hadn't said, about the people who'd called me cruel, dramatic, selfish, about how silence had never protected me, only concealed what needed to be faced. One day, Marnie barked at a shadow on the porch. A manila envelope had been slipped under the door. Inside, a handwritten note. I didn't know how to fix it. I still don't. Jessica. I folded the note once, then again. I didn't throw it away. But I didn't reply either. Some debts aren't settled with money. A year passed like sediment, slow, steady, layered. Days built on days. Routine took root. The calls from debt collectors stopped. The case closed without ceremony. The balance of restitution ticked upward, quiet and precise. Every month, $243 arrived, sometimes with a memo line, sometimes blank. I cashed each one. I didn't mark them on the calendar. I didn't celebrate. But I always remembered the date. The hospital changed in small ways. We got new uniforms. The break room microwave finally broke for good and was replaced with a newer one that no one trusted. A few of the older nurses retired. A few new ones started. People came and went. I stayed. There's a strength in staying. It doesn't look like much from the outside, but it means something to the ones who show up every day with the same badge clipped to the same lanyard, walking the same hallways without needing applause for it. One night, a nurse I barely knew asked if I'd ever considered leaving, trying a bigger hospital, maybe even a private clinic. "I've thought about it," I said. "Why stay?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "Because I know how to hold the line." She nodded, not understanding. That was fine. I moved into a new apartment the following spring. Not bigger, not newer. Just mine. 2 bedrooms, even though I didn't need 2. One became storage. The other stayed empty for a while, just sunlight and hardwood and space I wasn't ready to fill. I bought furniture slowly, picked every piece without asking what anyone else liked. No matching sets, no soft pastels, no farmhouse prints with scripted words about love or family. The walls stayed bare for months. Then one day, I put up a corkboard in the corner of the kitchen, pinned one thing to it, a receipt, restitution deposit, $412, dated July 3rd, first payment, first proof. I didn't frame it, just pinned it like a fact. In May, I saw my father again, not planned. A hardware store in Birmingham. I was there to buy a stepladder. He was in the paint aisle comparing swatches, pale gray, beige, something between them. I almost turned around, but he looked up and saw me. "You got what you wanted," he said. His voice was quieter than I remembered, not tired, just smaller. "No," I said. "I got what was right." He didn't argue. He didn't apologize. We stood in the aisle for a moment. He picked up a can of paint, read the label like it said something important. I left first. I didn't tell anyone about that moment. It didn't need to be shared to be real. Not all closure is cinematic. Sometimes it's just 2 people breathing the same air and realizing they're not the same people anymore. And they probably never were. Jessica's payments came on time for almost a year. Then, 1 month, nothing. Then another. I waited. On the 3rd month, a partial deposit, $76.41, hit my account. No explanation. I logged into the court system and checked the status. She'd filed for deferment, claimed financial hardship. I didn't contest it. I didn't need the money. What I needed was already mine. I started therapy in the fall. My new primary recommended someone, Dr. Allen, mid-40s, calm, no nonsense. He asked why I was there. I said, "I'm tired of pretending things didn't happen just because other people need them forgotten." He nodded. Every week we talked about boundaries, silence, endurance, about how the things that break us don't always leave bruises, about how dignity can look like distance, how forgiveness doesn't require forgetting. I didn't cry, not once, but my hands unclenched, slowly. One night, Dr. Allen asked what I would say to Jessica if she sat across from me right then. I said nothing for a long time. Then, "You took something from me, and you wore it like it was owed to you." He waited. "But I'm still here," I said, "and I'm not carrying your shame anymore." Jessica sent one more letter, this time handwritten. Neat cursive on lined paper. "I don't know who I am without you forgiving me." That line stayed with me longer than it should have, not because I believed it, but because I recognized the shape of it. Guilt shaped like a compliment. I didn't respond. I scanned the letter, filed it under, unanswered. The second bedroom in my apartment stayed empty until winter. Then one afternoon, I opened the door and stood in the center of it. The walls caught the light in a way I hadn't noticed before. I painted them a soft matte navy, moved in a table, a lamp, a chair with a blanket folded over the arm. No photos, no awards, just quiet. A room for breathing. One Friday morning, I found a package outside my door. No return label. Inside, a pair of designer shoes. The same brand Jessica had charged on my card 2 years ago. New. Still in the box. No note. No message. I sat on the floor with the box in my lap and stared at it for 10 minutes. Then I slid the shoes back into the tissue paper, closed the lid, and walked them to the donation bin 3 blocks away. They say time heals, but what time really does is uncover. It shows you what's built solid and what was just surface. The people who stayed in my life weren't the ones who sent apologies or gifts or late explanations. They were the ones who never asked me to justify the distance, who didn't confuse silence with weakness, who understood that leaving doesn't require a reason when staying requires betrayal. On the 1-year mark of the court ruling, I took the afternoon off, walked to a bakery I liked, bought a single slice of cake, lemon with thick white icing. I sat at a table by the window and ate it slowly. No occasion, no ceremony, just me, and a quiet acknowledgement of what had passed. Not the pain, the choice. I got a call that evening. Unknown number. I answered. It was Jessica. She didn't say hello, just, "Are we done?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "You were done the moment you wrote my name on a line that wasn't yours." She hung up. I blocked the number again. In February, I renewed my lease, paid in full, bought new sheets, took Marnie to the vet, replaced a light bulb, did laundry, read a novel, fell asleep on the couch, woke up to sunlight, ordinary things, the kind no one posts about. At the hospital, a new intern shadowed me for 2 weeks. On her last day, she said, "I hope I'm as steady as you one day." I smiled. "You will be, if you learn to stop asking for permission." She looked confused. I didn't explain. One evening, I found a voicemail I'd missed, from a number I didn't recognize. A woman's voice. "I'm not asking to come back. I just wanted you to know I'm trying." I deleted it. Some stories don't end. They change addresses. They file new names. They live in court records and payment schedules and the backs of drawers. But they also stop hurting. Eventually. Not because the wound disappears, but because you learn how to stop picking it open. I don't know where Jessica lives now. I don't know if she's still married. I don't know if she thinks of me when she sees my name on an old envelope or a missed call or a court ledger. But I know who I am. I know what I kept. And I know what I walked away from. They say family is everything. But I've learned that real family doesn't require your silence in exchange for belonging. And that love without accountability is just control in a prettier dress. If you're standing at the edge of something like this, something that wants your quiet more than your truth, ask yourself one thing. Who benefits from your silence? And who are you when you stop asking what it costs to leave? Thank you for walking this story with me. If it stirred something in you, you're not alone. If it mirrored a piece of your own life, I see you. Feel free to share your thoughts, quietly or out loud. And if you'd like to read more stories like this, you're welcome to subscribe. No pressure, no performance, just presence.